open us up with the word of prayer.
Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day today, Lord. Thank you for all the words that we've heard. And be with Mark as he brings us more this evening, Lord. Help us to understand your word. Lord, be with all those on the prayer list. You know each and every one of their needs. And Lord, I just ask that you would just be with those that couldn't be here tonight. Be with those, Lord, that are watching. And Lord, just watch over each and every one of us from this church. Thank you for the many blessings you pour out for us. Be with us this next week as we go out to further your kingdom. Watch over Mark and help him to present what he has for us tonight. Thank you for all your wonderful blessings. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Okay, so we're going to be in chapter 28. I'm going to let it read to us. See how well we come out with that, because it might be a disaster.
Chapter 28. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him, and commanded him,
Do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Paddan Aram, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, the land God gave to Abraham.
Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Paddan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and had sent him to Paddan Aram to take a wife from there, and that when he blessed him, he commanded him,
Do not marry a Canaanite woman.
and that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother, and had gone to Paddan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael, and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said,
I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you.
When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought,
Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it.
he was afraid and said,
How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven.
Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head, and set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying,
If God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me I will give you a tenth.
Okay. Now what's in it, right? Where is it? 10. So my question is going to start out pretty quick here. Let's see how we do. Let's get over to your stuff. Where did I get it? Oh, by the way, this is supposedly a picture of Bethel. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was a desolate hilltop. Okay? We'll talk about that more in a minute. See. Go.
It's nothing, Marty.
Nothing's gonna go that way today. Ah,
There it goes.
there we start talking. Got close enough to it. Isaac called Jacob, said, and told him, says, don't take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. What was the problem? Why could they not marry from the women of Canaan? Anybody got an answer?
They were the wrong people.
They were the wrong people? Anything else?
They were idol worshipers, weren't they? Canaanite people.
You're going good. You're my only class member today, so keep it up.
Well, according to the passage you put up there, it says we should not be unequally yoked.
Oh, you jumped ahead of me, okay.
Well, it says 2 Corinthians
Yep.
6:14.
Yeah. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? And what fellowship can light have with darkness? Okay. Barbie, when you married me, was I perfect?
No, I had to fix you. I had to change you.
Why did you have to change me?
That's my job.
But you saw potential in me, right? Yeah. Vicki, when you married Alan, was Alan perfect, or was there things that he needed to have fixed so that he would become the more perfect husband?
He was perfect
For you
for me.
at the moment.
He was
For the
perfect at the moment. He doesn't do things like he used to, so.
I'm no
Things
longer
change.
perfect.
He doesn't listen like he used to. He used to be a very good listener.
Oh, I'm hurt that you felt like you needed to improve upon the perfection that I was. Golly.
Oh, Lord. It's hard to be humble.
When you're perfect in every way.
That's
It's not, if you decide to have, and this is not for us, but if you decide to have a wife or a husband that is not a Christian before you get married, it is a very difficult relationship that's gonna happen down the road. Now, as the guy said that I was reading one commentary, he said, if you can't convert them before you get married, what makes you think you're gonna be able to convince them to become a Christian after you get married? And I can't totally disagree with you. Now, what's the one thing that everybody tries to tell you? Love is blind, right? And man, I've seen some marriages that somebody needed to go to the eye doctor. But
I think some people try harder before they're married than they do after they get married too. They slack off. But once they get married, they think now they don't have to do what they did before.
oh,
Especially, I was going to say especially in between our generation and this generation, seems like the people 20 years younger than me.
so okay, so like, well, back to what we're kind of going with here is the reason why he did not want them to take a wife from Canaan. His real reason is they did not know God. And every time in the history with the chosen people, with the Jews, is every time they had a king or a leader or somebody that married somebody outside of the group, what happened? It became a disaster. You know, they were led away from God, they were captured, they were hauled off into captivity, and years and years and years and years and years later, they finally would get to come back. So God was throwing out a warning. Now, there was not the 12 tribes to pick from. Where did they continue? Where did they go back to find a wife? Well, let's start with, where did Abraham's wife come from?
Now he wants us to remember.
I know.
Well, let me try this again. Abraham's wife was what relation to Abraham?
His sister, his half-sister, stepsister or something.
It was his half-sister.
Half-sister.
Yeah, because he told a half-truth when he said,
Right.
"This is my sister." He
Right.
didn't tell him it was his wife, which was Sarah. Okay. So, where did Isaac's wife come from?
Same family.
place.
There you
Same
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
Man.
Man, y'all are making this hard. Same family,
I'm
right?
thinking it's a trick question, but it's not, but yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Where did Isaac
They're
want to-
keeping it in the family.
There you go.
Okay.
And they're sending him back to the same place. Now remember, the spot that they're talking about, I think my map comes up next. Let's see where it does. Yeah. The spot they're talking about is Haran. Right there. See Haran? Why is Haran important? Remember, Abraham's father, Terah, that's where he died. And evidently, it wasn't just, the immediate family of Abraham that we talked about that moved there, because they came from the land of Ur, which is right down here next to Babylon. They came from there, they went to here, and they stayed there until Abraham's father died. And when he died, that's when Sarah and Abraham and the nephew, Lot, all went south to possess the promised land. But evidently there was more family than just them there, which we find out because.
So how far is that from Haran to down like where they are? How far is that? I can't read what it
Okay,
says.
see this little mark right
That's
here?
not, I couldn't read
This
what
little
numbers
mark right
were.
here is 200 miles.
Okay,
I'm thinking 200, 400, 600, 700 miles.
okay.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be about right, Alan?
yeah, looks like it.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and on foot, that is no
Okay, how long would
small,
that take him?
that's no small journey,
Yeah,
right? And why was this place important? That was because that was where the family was at. But the most important one that's there is Uncle Laban, because he's the one that's fixing to shake Jacob up. He's the one that's gonna put him through the ringer, okay? Which we'll get to, we'll come back. I have one more thing. No, I guess not. All right. Did not Jacob already get the blessing? Wasn't that the whole point of chapter 27? Yeah. You remember? Esau came in and was all upset. He says, "Don't you have a blessing for me?" Right? So I'm going to take liberty for a second because it's hard for me to figure out that, again, that Isaac pulled Jacob back in there again and talked to him again and then sent him off. I don't know the time frame of what we're dealing with, but I also know in the Old Testament, a lot of times they go back and retell the same story again. And I'm just wondering if it's kind of that way here. Because I always felt like when I left off in chapter 27, Jacob was on his way and leaving. Because he was for fear for his life.
Well, because right above that in 27, it made the comment, when Esau had gone in and he realized what had happened, that's when she told Jacob, go now and run, you know, or you'll be killed, blah, blah, blah. Well, then it turned right around and said, then he told him to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, who told him and when did he leave?
Right. So I'm gonna, but remember, in the Old Testament, they write and tell you about
Right.
stuff that's gonna happen in the future, like it's happening right then. And then, but they also retell the same story from the past and like bring it back into the future. And it was the style of writing. It's not so much that it was like misleading you. I just wanted you to see the consequences of what we're looking at here. The most important thing is that Isaac gave the blessing to Jacob. And the second time that's told in 28, it's like he knowingly gave him the blessing. Yeah, I think that's the ice machine, Vicky, dying back there.
Yeah.
So the most important part to take from this is that he knowingly gives the blessing, and he gives them a warning, and he sends him on his way. Okay. Now, what did Esau do? What was his take on this?
Of the blessing, or told him not to marry a Canaanite?
Well, what did Esau do right after this?
He went and married a Canaanite. Or he
No.
got married, no, he got married.
Yeah,
Well, first he was gonna go kill his brother.
right.
Yeah.
We got that. But he saw how displeased
Right.
his father was with the Canaanite women. And they must have been some real piece of work, because, man, they were causing some real problems evidently. So the Canaanite women were problems. So instead of getting rid of them, what did he do? He thought, well, I'll just get a third wife that's not anything like those two. Real harmony in the family, don't you think? And who did he marry?
Somebody in the family.
Okay, her name was, oh, I can't say it, Mahalath.
Mahalath.
There, it's close enough. And the sister to, and the daughter of Ishmael, the son of Abraham. So let's see here.
And
Ishmael
Ishmael
was
was
his-
Hagar's son.
Right, which would have made, Isaac's brother, half-brother, right? There you go. And then Isaac would have been his half-brother, so the daughter had a daughter, so it would have been his second cousin. Am I on the right track? Thinking so. So he went and married his second cousin to make things better. Did it help? No. And we also know that Ishmael's line is not the chosen line anyway. So he doubled up on not being the chosen line. All right. So here we talked about what was going on and where they left. So again, this is the Mediterranean Sea. There is the great, we call it the Dead Sea, but they call it the Salt Sea. And then there's the Sea of Galilee and the Jordan River flowing between, and all these lines everywhere. But the most important one is this one right here, okay? See, this is Bethel, right here. And Jerusalem is somewhere about right here. And all the way down here, we got Beersheba. That's where they were all living when this all started. From Beersheba to Bethel, it's 40 miles. Okay, and it's not western Oklahoma 40 miles. You get my point? Because you go in western Oklahoma, you can drive a straight line for 40 miles and not run into anything and just keep going. That's not what was happening here. He traveled up and down mountains 40 miles in one day. Do you think he was scared? I'm thinking he was.
Did he take anybody with him, or was
Nope,
it just him?
It was just him. He was on his own. He was scared. And he was tired. All those are important. Hello, sunshine.
I got chicken.
Boy, I think that sounds like a good thing. Hello, James. So we traveled 40 miles in one day. Bethel means house of God. Wait,
Bethel?
yeah. Okay. House
Sounds
of
like you're not
God.
talking about that church in California, though, are you?
No. And remember, anytime you see these two letters together, it's God, E-L. And they later come to know God as El Bethel, which means God of the house of God. So it was 40 miles from Beersheba to where we were talking about in Bethel. David could travel it in one day. Yes, he was tired, and God came to him in a dream. If I covered 40 miles in a day, God's going to have to really come to me in a really loud dream, because I'm not going to be too awake on what's going on.
Well, did he travel on foot?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
I
on
took an
foot.
Uber.
Not foot or donkey. Donkey.
All right. Okay. We're going to step in a different direction for a split second, and then we'll bring it back in. You know, the dream he had was God at the top of the stairs and angels coming up and down and God talking to him, okay? But I want to read this first and we'll come back to it. In John chapter 1, 45 through 51, Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him, of whom Moses and the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael said to him, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" And that was a pretty common term. Philip said to him, "Come and see." And Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, and he said to him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, and when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." And Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say unto you, I will see the heavens open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Now, why did I pull those verses? Talking about Jacob's ladder, because that's what this term has become. Why would I talk about that? How was Nathanael called? Nathanael was called. How did Jesus call him? See, this made complete sense to me, but it must be tough on trying to pull this
Well,
out.
Nathaniel was the one who was sitting underneath the tree.
Yeah,
And Nathaniel basically said, or no, the God, when he called him, he said, I saw you even under the tree, right? Yeah, so then he realized in that moment that he was God, or that he was the Messiah.
Okay.
Because again, only God could have known that he was underneath that tree at that time. Right? And again, that's totally unabridged version.
But
going
that's
off my memory.
right, which is what we just read, right?
Right.
Okay. So, how did God call Jacob? Jacob's passed out and asleep, and he gives him this dream. Okay, and he's laying there, passed out, and I hate to use the term, but dead to the world, right? And in verse 12, it says, he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with the top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And that above it stood the Lord. And he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father, of Abraham, God of Isaac, and I will give you your descendants the land in which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and will spread out west and east, to the north and to the south, and all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. Nathaniel, he says, behold, an Israelite indeed. Nathaniel is really and truly almost fulfilling the prophecy in this, isn't he? He's a true Israelite. He has come back to possess the land, and he gets to see the completion of the ladder, or of the stairway. See, this all makes sense in my head.
Well, so it says the Lord stood above at the top, but then Christ stood at the bottom. Right. So you have the physical, the representation of God coming down. Right. God being at the top of the ladder, and then now he's at the bottom. He is
The fulfillment
of
what all that he was seeing.
Right.
And Nathaniel got the true reference from God in the very last verse. He says, truly, truly, I say to you, you will see the heavens open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. The completion of the prophecy. I was making that way too hard. I shouldn't have tried that. And Barbie's going to talk to me. She says, I don't get it on the way home, but that's okay.
No, well, again, when you're getting the idea of fulfilling prophecies,
It's hard.
it is difficult
I
at
don't-
times. But in this instance, it's pretty clear the visual of it, above all, is the Lord being at the top of it and the Lord being at the bottom of it.
Well, Jesus being at the bottom of it.
Well, yeah, the Lord.
And he's the only pathway to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of representation
A
there.
lot of stuff going on in that. So, but the main thing is God came to him and told him that he was going to keep his promise. Now, how did Jacob react? How did he react? And I'll come back to this in a second. But how did Jacob react?
Surely the Lord is in this place.
He's here. He's here. He's surely in this place. Alan, what is the most dreadful place for any sinner to be?
The church,
Why?
is they're in the presence of God and other believers, and the Holy Spirit is, I mean, you can't go anywhere where he's not, but there's something about a place where believers gather.
Two or three are gathered, I will be there also.
Hi, Paul.
So I have watched people in the church literally almost shake from having to sit in the church, especially funerals. Funerals are, oh my gosh, I think the people would a lot rather just take a whipping than go to sit at a funeral, because they're afraid I don't know what, are they afraid just of God, period? Because, see, again, I'm 7 when I came to know God. So it's hard for me to put myself in the place of someone that doesn't know God. So I don't know where the fear's
I
at.
don't know if it's because they're dreading him as much as they're questioning everything else in them or themselves and what does really happen after death, and and or why did God take my loved one? I think there's a lot of other things too that.
Yes,
Make it be
it may be the first time somebody's experiencing death.
I'm sorry, start over.
It may be the first time somebody's experiencing death. A lot like the finality of it, Because it's all fine and dandy to talk about who someone has died until you experience it with someone who's close to you.
I think it's one of the reasons people have moved away from church weddings.
Yeah,
Really? You think so?
I do.
it's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
And they want a party.
I was gonna say, I figured it was because they
Yeah.
wanted to do things.
The Catholic Church didn't have a problem with the party.
We did, we didn't have a party.
We didn't-
Well, I'm gonna say this. It's not so much in the church, because people relate God's in the church.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
What they
And,
don't understand is when they come to the Thanksgiving dinner,
yeah,
it's the same thing.
What'd you say?
When you come to our Thanksgiving dinner, it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's, it's,
Something about the building.
what did David say? Where can I flee from your presence? Where can I, there's nowhere you can go. You can go to the depths of the sea, you can go to the highest mountain, and God's there. So it's not an absence of God in any respect. It's just, there are places. I mean, one of the reasons Falls Creek is so effective is sheer numbers. And so much prayer and so much spiritual activity. It calls into question a lot.
right. Well, at Falls Creek in our cabin, the first week, they had 8 people and they had 3 conversions.
Wow.
And last week, they had, I think, probably around 30 plus.
Wow.
And I think they were telling me they had 8 or 10 that kind of came forward, which is the same ratio if you really get down to it. So, here's the thing, is that those that are sinners, that don't know God, so an unbeliever, when they walk in the door, they truly, I think, their mind takes over and they dwell on what they really are. And I think that's where the dread starts to hit.
It's funny. We have a unique experience with ours at the church plant that we're going to. And we're at a coffee shop. And I can attest, as well as anyone that goes to that, there are times in which we're worshiping together. Because again, we don't have any music. We don't have any guitar. Don't have any music we play on this sound system. We just sing a cappella. And there are times in which the Spirit is very apparent, very clear it's there. And it's overwhelming at times. And it's the funny thing is because we're meeting in a coffee shop, and so occasionally there will be people that will pull up and they'll walk up to the door because it's a reflector glass so you can't see inside of it. And they flip open the door to go into coffee, and there's 50 people sitting in there singing. And they're going, oh, 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 and they shut the door back and they walk around like, where am I? So we try to get somebody
to stay,
yeah, try to get people to come on in, And so we need to start just serving coffee, I guess, to get people to come in. I don't know, but the interesting thing is again, because it is a coffee shop, it is true that no matter where you're at, the presence of the Lord is there when believers are there.
It's not a coffee shop.
Building is.
No. If you're in there worshiping God, it's a church.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
not a coffee shop.
Again, it goes to show that it's just not. It's not a building. It really, as Alan was talking about, it's the people. It's where they are at.
But
Presence
for a sinner,
Sure.
a non-believer, and can I tell you this? Even believers, I've
Sure.
They truly believe the building is the place.
Sure.
But the place is not the building. The place is where the people are. And
People used to say, they would say to their kids, don't run in church. And I thought, I always say, if you let them run in the grocery store, there's nothing wrong with letting them run in the church. This is a building. It's not, they don't need to be afraid of being in here. I know that they were trying to be respectful, but if they can do it everywhere else and they can't do it there, then I think that little ones don't want to be there.
well, they pick up on it quick.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And the thing that I think we're all talking about right here, Jacob was making that point by saying, this is a fearful place because this is the doorway to heaven. That place. Now, we all have places in our heart where we've come to meet God, right? You know,
Or rather, he's come to meet us.
it's just dependent.
Right.
Yeah. God's always with us, but there
Right.
are places, okay, that you really come to meet God, that are ingrained in your mind. You know, and I've talked about this. I talked about it too much. Sometimes I think, but I know where that moment where I was saved and where I was at. I know exactly. I don't know the date. I just know it was in the evening, and I know it was on the third row back at the Joy Church on the right side.
That had the spot that we pick out.
No,
that wasn't-
that was in the back. We
Oh.
already got banned from back there.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah. But no, that was where it was at. But, you know, Falls Creek, people come to me, you know, there's a meaningful connection with God there. Mine's Mercedes, Texas, sitting at the doorway of the Methodist Church in Mercedes, Texas, when it's 105 degrees. So there's places that, you know, we all have that Jacob feeling.
Well, yeah,
This is the place.
you know, I guess I've never told you guys before. McKinsey's probably the only one who knows this. But I had a very, very real encounter with God in that little bitty 650 square foot apartment in Colorado that I will never forget, because at the time I was really working on the idea of spending time in prayer, not just for my own things in my own life, but really keeping track and praying for other people and the struggles they're going through. And again, did that have anything to do with it? I don't know. Or if it was just simply that God decided to allow me to have an experience, to experience Him in a different way. But I cannot describe in words what it was like, but it was so overwhelming that I could not stand. I fell down to my knees, and all I could do was just praise Him, because there was something different. It was I felt His presence. I felt, again, it wasn't about feelings, but it was just an awe of who He is, what He's done, what He's doing, things like that. It was a very, it was enough that I got up after I was done. And then again, it happened while I was praying. So much so that I didn't have words to convey what I was praying about anymore. It was more about just being with God in that moment. And again, I have never had that again. And I've done the same. Not even said I tried to replicate it, but again, I've done the same thing. I've prayed the same way. I've continued to pray the same way. And I never had that experience again. And so that's why it's likely that it wasn't had anything to do with what I was doing, but that God decided to reveal Himself to me in a different way than what I had ever experienced before. And you know, of course, I told Jed, the pastor at the time out there in Colorado, about it. He said, "Well, you may never have another experience again that the rest of your life until the day in which you step into His presence again." And he said, "So count yourself blessed that you got to have an experience like that." And he said, but, you'll never be able to forget that moment. And I guess that's why this story always sticks to me, is because he was going about his regular vocation. He was sleeping. He wasn't doing anything. And then God revealed himself to him. God came to him and revealed to him.
He was not just sleeping, he was running.
Right.
For his life.
Right, yeah. And so, I mean, like, again, in sometimes the moments in which we least expect it, God will reveal himself to us. And he may, again, somebody may never have an experience as what I had in that. And that's okay.
I think everybody, I don't know, I think everybody has an experience with God, but I don't know if they recognize the whole part of it.
Because it wasn't even like what it was whenever I decided to, truly come to faith. It felt his call and to become faithful. Even a call into ministry, it was completely different than that. It was just being in awe of God in that moment, just praising Him for who He is. Other than that, I can't really explain. And again, I told Mackenzie, I said it was just overwhelming. That's the best way to describe it. That's how I think Jacob kind of probably felt in that moment. Just overwhelmed.
I think he was young, and it may have even been more than what you were feeling.
I'm sure. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Because again, he saw something as to where I didn't. I just had an experience per se.
Okay. So Jacob has this experience, and then he starts in on a vow. Okay? And I put I don't remember which one I used, but out of the dictionary it says to make a firm promise or decision to do something. And I put up there a vow, belief, action, and faith. Okay? So his belief led him to do an action. What was the action that he did? He made a vow. And because of the vow, he did something else. Remember, he stacked the rocks up, showing that this was the place. That was him acting in faith. So it was a belief, an action, and faith.
Would that have been kind of like an altar? Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was, anytime they piled rocks in memory of something, it was.
Because Abraham did that too, yeah.
And that's where he got it from.
Right.
Okay.
My mind was, when I read that, my mind was that he put the rock there so he remembered where the place was when he walked. Because if there's no landmarks,
Sure. Yeah.
that becomes your landmark. I wasn't thinking of it any deeper.
And well, what's interesting is, we ain't got time.
Well, it kind of is that. I mean, it is a landmark for him that should he ever pass or anyone pass by.
The whole story about them passing clean across the river, and when they got to the middle, they piled the rocks up in the middle of the Jordan to show that's the spot where they took the possession of the land. That was to honor God and to show that that's the spot. So it was nothing new that coming about. And remember also, they didn't have a lot of trees. They had lots of rocks. That's why the buildings are built out of rocks over there.
So the stacking, it wasn't the stacking of them and how many rocks were there. It was the location that they're stacking in, because that was where it was.
Yeah. To remember it, so they
To
wouldn't
remember,
forget
so
that God did this.
When they seen that,
Which in a form is an altar.
with what?
In a form, it's an altar.
Yeah.
Like the altar.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and also too, I don't know why this is. I don't know why, but I always had an image in my head of what are those things that hikers put out? It's like a stack of rocks. It's just really tall up to a point, with like big rocks, little rocks, all the way up. What's that called, Dave?
Oh, I thought
What's it
that
where
was their
somebody hiker
landmark
puts
too,
a
to remember. I've
stack
already
of
been
rocks?
by this
A
place
cairn.
once.
Yeah, I always thought it was a cairn when he did this. Like where they put them up, they put like a big rock and then a bunch of little bitty rocks stacked all the way to the top. It's like a marker that's where the trail is. That's what I always assumed this was, and then
Or
I
I'm going around in
realized it.
circles.
Right, yeah.
That's where my mind goes. I've already been here, I went the wrong way.
Well, I didn't realize until like later on in life that it wasn't that it wasn't just a stack of rocks all the way to the top, that it was an actual like big boulder rocks of an altar, per se.
Those would have stayed.
It would have stayed there, not just been knocked over by anything.
Yeah.
Did you notice how that in verse, hang on, let me get the right verse. In verse 20, then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey, I am taking off, and I will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I will return safely to my father's house. Then the Lord will be my God. What's the word that he used?
If.
Does God deal in ifs?
No. I was wondering about that.
That's really, but let's talk about what if means. In the English conditions, if plus present simple, present simple, that's like this. If you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. Used to talk about things that are always true, like scientific fact. That would be Celsius, 100 degrees Celsius. This is obviously somebody from overseas. And then the next thing is the first condition. If it rains tomorrow, we'll go to the cinema. Okay, that's a condition.
Cinema, who calls that cinema?
But he used his if in the second stage of this conditional. If I won the lottery, I would buy a big house. If God takes care of me, I'll make you my God.
I kept thinking that in the beginning, and then I thought later, did that mean if he takes care of me and I live until I get back, then he'll be my God when I get back? Because if I don't make it back, then
And you broke your promise to me, so I don't have to, you're not my God.
then you weren't in the first place because I died.
Well, wouldn't this also have something to do with later on, we're getting ready to talk about with his wrestling with God? Would that be
That's
more?
on his trip back.
I know, but like the idea of his mindset, right? If God does something, it's kind of, because
Well-
the wrestling at God is
We'll save it.
Yeah.
Save it. Let's don't go there. All right. Does God deal in conditions? No, he does not. And I put down there, you can't bargain with God, he only deals in faith. You can't go. And see, this is where I get, the golden fleece thing, and I should have looked it up, read it today, and I didn't. Where they put the fleece out there, and they said, hey, God, if it's really true, then, what was it? Was it to be covered in gold or wet, or what? I don't remember the whole the whole story, but it was a condition. And I'm going like, you have got to have some to challenge God like that.
gumption.
Yeah, to say, hey, God, do it that way. Now to prove that you really are going to do it, I'm going to lay it out tonight, and you do it the other way.
right, just to be sure.
Just
we're
to
gonna
be
test
sure.
you again.
Okay.
They have to see it to believe it.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is also a difference than what they did with the and the Thummim thing, because they would set parameters for God to answer the question versus prove yourself God. There's a difference, right?
I would think so.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think what you're talking about, where you're throwing the fleece out there, that's prove yourself God instead of reveal to us God.
I don't know. It was more like he was asking for God to reveal it to him. He was
Okay.
just making sure. But again, it's all in your heart and how you ask it. Okay. 'Cause-
Well, and it boils back to the point, they didn't have the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
to tell them or to lay on their heart, to get an answer or something, right?
Right. Yes. Exactly. And I forget that when I deal with the Old
Right.
Testament sometimes that's not there, and I'm going like, really? Really? Did you not just
How
trust your
bold of
heart?
them to ask like that.
Cause I'm going like, man, I don't think I could ask God in that way. You know, it would strain me, you know?
Yeah.
Cause,
What line do you cross and say, I'm testing the Lord now? You know,
or what line do you cross saying that I'm on the equal ground?
right, yeah.
And Moses found that.
Sure.
That's why he didn't get to go into the promised land.
Yeah.
So,
I think when you said your heart, like, does God deal in conditions? If you say, if you'll do this, I'll do this, that's a condition. But if you say, I think this is what you're wanting me to do, will you reveal it to me and confirm to me, then that's not,
I think
that's not a condition. That's
issue.
I want confirmation that before I do this, that this is what you want. Does that make sense?
What do you do when you don't get the confirmation?
Wait.
What, what do you do or what you should do?
Tell me.
Well, I mean, what you shouldn't do is keep praying for the answer you want.
Yeah, just throw your hands up.
Yeah. What you should do is trust what he's telling you is to do the right thing, or is do, you know, that.
Remain faithful.
Quit praying for the answer you want.
A lot of times the
I think you
affirmation
continue
comes
listening.
after the action.
Say it again, Alan.
And a lot of times the affirmation comes after the
Yes,
action.
yes.
When
So
he's- when
after
he's called
you-
us to a task, we complete the task and he affirms in us that we did the right thing.
Right.
And a lot of that is just, you know, the simple fact that he expects us to take what he says on faith. And if we say, well, God, I need you to prove to me this is gonna work before I do it, we miss the point.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not saying prove to me that something's going to work, not in any way whatsoever. You didn't ask him to prove to you that going to seminary and what was going to happen. You asked him to give you a clear sign that that is what he wanted you to do, not the future.
That's a clear and simple, weak and simple faith that asks that question.
That asks what question?
You
To
know,
make it clear?
Give me a sign. You know, I knew what he wanted. I knew what he wanted.
Oh, okay, you were just trying to get out
I
of it.
was struggling, and,
Yeah.
you know, when you struggle, you tend to use, well, God, you know what, God, I'm not really sure. Could you give me, you know, a little bit better sign? You know,
When the tornado comes down, blows the
yeah,
house
you were
down.
talking about Gideon and the fleeces. I mean, it
Gideon.
was just, this issue was immature faith. It's weak and immature faith. A weak and immature faith will lead us to hesitate when God points us at something. When we say, well, God, I need to be sure. Well, we need to have enough faith that we're sure what he tells us the first time.
Okay, so,
I think you were sure the first time, but more time went by, you started questioning.
Absolutely, yeah.
so
That's why when God tells us to do something,
You
do
should
it,
act.
because when you don't, it gets easier and easier to
To not.
not
right.
do it.
So.
But it's very
since-
rewarding when you finally go through with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And that's when you get that affirmation.
Right,
That
right.
you did the right thing. You
Right.
did exactly what God was, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know what y'all's experience was moving back from Colorado, but I suspect there was a whole lot of struggle in that was not affirmed until you did it, right? And-
I'm telling
Or
you,
moving to Colorado, same thing.
it was easy to go to Colorado. That was, I mean, I
Pretty girl that likes me, I get it.
right, yeah, it was pretty simple. You know, and granted, I will say, God had made it very easy to go. Like
Yeah.
he put
Yeah, so easy, he up and left, didn't just left closing the
I did,
washer
yeah,
and dryer and.
fair. I loaded everything I could fit in my car and left. But the God provided a job and an apartment within 2 days.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was like, okay, clearly this is where He wants me to go.
And
Like,
when we were moving to seminary, we put up our house for sale and it sold in 24 hours
Yeah.
for more than it would praise for.
right, you're going, okay, God.
We had
you know.
to come down on the price because
'Cause it wouldn't
they
praise.
didn't, but yeah, they were willing to pay it, but
Yeah.
Well, so put in perspective, recently something that's happened. So, I don't know that even a few years ago I would have even done this because I would have said, oh no, I don't. It's too much to try to put together the last second. But Wednesday, I took the kids to go get ice cream, and on the way home we were just singing and listening to music in the car. We were not had anything on my mind, and then within just a couple of minutes of us before we got home, I had just, it felt like somebody had dropped, I don't think it felt like somebody dropped a hammer on me that I needed to do something. And our pastor, who is now in Norway, we didn't pray with him on Sunday morning. The men didn't get to meet the week before as the men's group to pray for him. And I went, we should really probably do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was so much so that I immediately turned off the music and I called one of the other guys who's the members of the church. And I said, hey, I can't explain it, but I think we really, and I'm not saying there's anything bad going to happen to Tyler, but I said, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to, as the men of the group, go and pray for Tyler. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And I called the other one who's the other official, or the other two guys that are official members of the church, and they said, let's do it. And so the next day, I, in a roundabout way, confirmed he was still going to be home. And we drove over to his house about 7 o'clock. We all stood out in the front yard. We all took turns praying for him. And that had a huge impact on him. That we wanted to do that. And now granted, he still had a layover. He missed one of his flights. And no, he's there. Okay, he made it there.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that was about us praying for his safe travels, more about us reflecting back on it as an opportunity to be faithful.
Yeah.
As a church, sending off the pastor of the church overseas to go meet with missionaries.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That we just got so caught up in our everyday life that we forgot to pray for it.
Yeah.
As the men of the church.
Yeah.
And so that in itself of how a few years ago I probably would have just brushed it off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have really done it. I mean, granted, I can say that, but it was enough that I had enough conviction to it, conviction on me that I need to do this right now.
Right.
Like we need to put this together right now to go and do this. And so, just an example of something like that, where God calls you to do something and
It's more urgent sometimes than we think of it.
Sure.
Being. It's certain. What you did was send him, biblically send him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's urgent.
It brought to mind when I went to Spain.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah.
And again, had I thought about that in 10 years? No.
Yeah.
Not. But it was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
And again, where the thought came from, again.
I can tell you where.
I know. There was no rhyme or reason or explanation to why I would have ordinarily come upon that thought.
Right.
Other than God putting that in my mind that I need to do this.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just a prime example of something that happened in real life.
If we're sensitive enough, we'll hear those things.
Right.
Like, a few Sundays ago, we gathered up around a guy and prayed for him, just on his way out. Kind of a
impromptu moment.
Because it was thing that God said, y'all should really pray over him right now. He's struggling with this and he needs some peace. And, we gathered up some guys, we prayed over him, and did it mean anything? I don't know.
We
were faithful to the.
Then it meant something.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to know what it meant. If you
It
felt like that
you're
this
right.
one
It
needed to be
doesn't
done.
matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
What we
You
think
don't have to
comes
know
from
what
it
it meant.
doesn't matter near as much as the
Following
The
through.
faithfulness behind it.
Yeah.
That's what-
Obedience. I think obedience,
Obedience, yeah.
is the word I was looking for. So.
Because again, that we talked about last week about the idea of faithfulness as an action, and faithfulness, obedience, very much are verbs. You're doing it because you love the Lord. That's why you do it. And again, also on top of that we all love the pastor of the church. Again, not just as the pastor of the church, but also as a friend. We very much want to see him continue to also be encouraged, not just constantly encourage, to be encouraged by the men of the church and by the church itself as he endeavors to faithfully shepherd.
Preachers don't need encouragement.
I know it's oftentimes forgot, but yes.
So, when do you seek affirmation for what God lays on your heart? It could be before or after, but God usually operates after. He really does. And Alan made the point, it's a week of faith to reach out and say, hey, show me a clear sign, God. But if you're sitting at the Mexican-US border with 50 people in the back of a bus, and the armed guard walks out to you and says, what are y'all doing here? I needed some affirmation.
Yeah.
Good question.
Maybe I should turn around.
Because really and truly, I had never really thought about, what are you doing here? And my answer is we're gonna go work for God. Okay, he did. I don't think he understood anything. Okay. And then that's when God decided to let the rain fall.
Yeah.
Or the time that me and you spent an entire summer getting ready to send a bunch of computers down there and leave them in a closet.
Well, that's because that wasn't God's plan.
Nope.
So, all right. Any questions I can't answer? Remember, God only deals in faith.
Please. Up here.
All right, next time, Genesis 29, we start the big love story. So, there you go.
This is Macy's.
So, did we decide how old he was when this?
77.
He was 77 when he began his journey of over 700 miles. And do we know how long it took him or how old he was when he finally reached there?
I don't know the exact time frame, but it wasn't as long as you think. He was 77 and covered 40 miles.
No, not 40 miles. No, from when he went.
I know, but he covered 40 miles in a
Perspective.
day.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Me,
I don't think I could cover 5.
so if you could walk 4 miles an hour, and I granted that's a pretty rapid pace.
It depends on the terrain.
But at 4 miles an hour, it'd be 175 hours. That's 7 days, probably. So I think
No, that's 7
realistically,
24-hour days, and you have to
yeah, I
sleep
know.
in
I think
between.
realistically, you're talking at least
I'm
at least 30 days,
I'm-
probably more like 60.
I'm thinking 2 months. It's
Yeah.
a 2-month
Yeah,
journey.
because they didn't get to
Because, I mean, he
stop
also
and
stopped
grab a
to
bite to
sleep.
eat. They had to cook their food.
Well,
and
we're
everything.
measuring.
They didn't have
we're-
McDonald's?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we're
Buggies.
also, we're measuring in straight lines.
Right, and it
Yeah, it was
flies in.
kind
And
of
And
doing this.
there's terrain and.
Yeah.
So, and nobody can maintain a 4 mile an hour pace. My brother made me the whole time we backpacked through Europe, but, my brother was
So
military.
you think 2 to 3 months, roughly, maybe not?
I would say at the most 6 and at the least 2. But I don't know how he was traveling. If he was traveling and they had to do something to get food, he had to stay a couple of days to get enough money together to get food and then move on to the next.
Now, granted, he left, because again, him leaving was fleeing his brother, right?
No, well, okay. So in the end of 27, it was he's fleeing his brother.
Right.
At the beginning of 28, he was leaving because his dad told him to go find a wife.
Right, okay.
You see, so
So I don't think he would have just left with his shirt on his back. I think Isaac would have sent him, With things.
I think he had things, and
including probably a camel or even money and
Well,
things like that.
we don't know that because
Sure.
it just says he left. Like when the servant went to find Isaac's wife, he traveled with everything.
Right.
He had all kinds of stuff. Actually, 10 different people that went with him.
Right,
you know.
right.
But this, I'm getting the thing that he's got a backpack and he's heading his way.
I'm trying to see, does it later on say that he traveled, there was anybody there with him when he arrived at his destination?
I've read the chapter and I don't remember him saying anything about it.
And I know age-wise it's different, but I'm thinking it'd take me a little bit longer if I was 70-some years old than if I was 27 years old to get that many miles. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
understand.
back then, a 70-year-old is like a 20-year-old.
Because it's gonna take me 3 days in a car, so.
How many times you gotta stop me? That would be
Well, see,
fun.
you just pop a squat. If
Yeah,
you're
oh, I
in the
know that.
wilderness,
I
you don't
know
have
that.
to take
But I
20
mean-
minutes off
We're
the
live on
highway.
the internet here.
Oh.
That was the nicest way for me to put that.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, that's why I asked how old he was, because I was like, wow, can you imagine traveling like that and you're 70-something years old? But it's different, because they lived longer, and I think their bodies were in better shape. Good job.
Yeah, because they lived outside all the time. They didn't have that air conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't have processed food.
They didn't sit in front of TVs or
TV,
computers
yeah.
or nothing else. They had to work at
Yeah,
even
no.
getting food all day long.
So we'll cover this because we're gonna get him there next chapter, so we'll deal with that. Anything else? 'Cause my legs are getting tired. And I'm not 77. All right. Zach dismisses.
Heavenly Father, in Jesus Christ's name, I pray this prayer. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to come and study your word. Lord, I pray that you, as we go home this week, you protect us and continue to guide us to serve you and continue to lead us closer to you, Lord. Again, thank you for all that you have blessed us with. We deserve none of it. We love you, Lord, in Jesus Christ's name. I pray this prayer. Amen.
James.